Coming to you live from the Zizmo's bar here in beautiful Baltimore, Maryland. It's Hampden tonight with our fantastic guests, John Bennett, Sean Lothar, and musical guest, Akasa Sears. And coming to the stage now, your host and announcer for the evening, Mr. Cole Grinnell. Good evening, Baltimore, and welcome to Hampden tonight. Woo! I'm your host, Cole Grinnell, and it is an absolute goddamn pleasure to see each and every one of you just jam-packing this capacity crowd bar here in Baltimore at the Lou Costello Room. So, we have a wonderful show for you tonight. But before I get to it, you know, there's been a few things in the news, a few things we ought to talk about. So let's just hop right into it. So first of all, as you probably heard, Jeb Bush, he's left us. He's been taken out behind the shed and shot by his brother. Jeb Bush is out of the presidential race. That is proof to say that money cannot buy the presidency, but it can buy you a podium for 18 months. It makes Jeb the 12th person to no longer be running for the Republican ticket on the presidential race, which means now they can have a 6-on-6 basketball teams, skins versus races. This has been an unbelievable $150 million Jeb Bush spent in his campaign, which has gone nowhere. This has been the biggest political waste of money ever since Donald Trump's high school science project, where he tried to see if he could melt a diamond limo burning $100 bills. What else we got? What else? So, out in California, for those more internet inclined, there was a bill among the adult entertainment industry to introduce new safety practices amongst them. They were trying to see, condom usage, safe workplace practices, all of that stuff. Sadly, it did not pass. It did not reach the 4-vote threshold to pass. There was various reasons given. One was just, it's just hotter. It's dangerous. But this was, I don't know if you saw this. It was incredible. Like, there was just fighting, consternation. It was like the most contentious bill that had been before the adult entertainment industry ever since there was the argument to put lift gates on the band bus. So they said, you no longer have to wear goggles in porn. It is not required to put goggles in regular porn. However, there is going to be a separate bill to determine if you have to wear it in welding porn, which is a separate category. And if you want to know what welding porn is, hot. Kinky, but hot. So, a fantastic story from The Wrong Way Up in Australia. A anti-gay group was trying to fundraise to, I don't know, give money whatever dickhead costs they usually give money to. And they accidentally, because some confusing naming, gave it to a pro-gay LGBT prom. A giant mistake. It was a giant, it was an oversight. Basically, it was a massive oversight. They're going to get to the bottom of that oversight. And the secondary oversight of a lot of them actually having gay sex. It's a gaffe. And what happens when there's a gaffe is you need to knuckle down and research the gaffe. And thankfully, they're very familiar with gaffes because gaffe is an Australian term for a taunt 20-something-year-old man. I've been told that. I do not know. It was on Urban Dictionary, I think. But with the new money, you know, that is 30 grand's a lot to go for just a simple prom. So the pro-gay group has told them they're going to put it to a good cause and buy at least 5 pairs of really nice jeans. Some local news. Local news now. There was a bit of an interesting robbery up in Owings Mills. A former family attorney attempted to strong-arm a yogurt shop. The young woman, when asked why yogurt shop, said, well, she was on a diet. They have a brilliant defense lawyer, though, and they're trying to argue them down to a lesser crime. They said they were not robbing a yogurt shop, and they're actually robbing milk and bacteria that they left in the back of the van for a couple of months, and it just turned out to be that way. It's a chemistry joke. That's how yogurt works. And now you can make yogurt at home. Isn't that nice? So in India, a bit of tragic news. A young baby dolphin was found on a beach, and all of the crowd there kept picking it up and taking selfies with it until it died of lack of oxygen. This is sad, terrible news, and gives us all a good way to kill the Kardashians. The dolphin's parents were, of course, inconsolable and could not be reached, and they believe they're spending a grief period in a guest house, a tiny plastic castle with a little bubbler next to it. And in last news, a local, not local here, but a hero to us all, particularly here in Baltimore, a Spanish water department bureaucrat was found to have taken a 6-year leave of absence and was only discovered when he was about to earn an attendance award for 6 years of perfect attendance. He has, of course, now been fined and is possibly facing arrest. His lawyer was asked for a statement, but sadly has been on a 7-year leave of absence. When we finally reached Mr. Garcia himself, he says he understands the fine is necessary and he's not actually worried. He actually has another job already lined up. He's been in contact with the state of Michigan, and they would love for him to run the water in Flint, Michigan. Because they say his work ethic is just perfect for that job. And that's the news! And we are going to a quick commercial now. We'll be right back.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. Hello, I'm improvisational actor and stand-up comedian Michael Furr. Do you like game shows but hate the point where somebody inevitably wins a prize? Then we have the absolute perfect game show for you. Live tomorrow on Periscope, right here at the Charm City Comedy Project at 8 o'clock, February 25th, it's a Thursday. Only Punishments, the game show where there are no prizes for the winners, only harsh and humiliating punishments for the losers. There'll be trivia, there'll be no prizes, there'll be humiliation, there'll be fun, jaunty songs for me to fill the 15-second periods where people get to write down their answers. So tune in tomorrow night, live on Periscope right here at Hampden tonight for Only Punishments, or You'll Be Punished. Thanks.
Welcome back. Yeah, Only Punishments, folks. If you've ever watched Jeopardy and said, this is nice, but more S&M. More S&M. So, our first guest tonight is a dear friend of mine. He gave me one of the actual first performance gigs I ever had here in Baltimore. It's an absolute pleasure to have him on the show. Without further ado, Mr. John Bennett.
Yay!
Woo-hoo!
I like this look you have.
Thank you.
Philip Seymour Hoffman meets Agent 47. I like it.
Yeah, I guess got to shave everything down. I'm going one hair at a time. So John, folks at home and on the internet might perhaps most recently recognize you for your ad work you did for a small picture show called Stardust Laserdome.
Yes, I did a bit of a fake ad for the beginning of it. Yeah, we did a PSA, if you will, for the entire experience of Stardust Laser
How
Now.
did you feel sliding into the role of an evil suit?
Remarkably easy, in fact.
Have you done a lot of corporate work stuff, or?
Yeah, like the funny thing is that this gig actually got me more corporate work. I just booked a commercial.
He's sinister. God,
Yeah, I booked a commercial based on this silly, like, corporate suit wearing idiot.
Is it a secret? Can I ask you?
No, it's some sort of cyber firm.
Cyber.
Firm.
That's.
Yeah.
And you know, if Stardust Lasers on is about anything, it is about cyber. Yeah, its importance in our world.
It's a dream gig. I get to play the mayor. I've always wanted to play the mayor in something. Big sash, big key.
Oh, I will insist on you can't be the mayor if you don't have the sash. Because how are you going to be the mayor?
Yeah, people are just gonna be like, "That's just a guy sitting there at a big desk."
Yeah, how am I not the mayor right now? I don't have a sash.
Exactly. It's part of being the mayor is having a huge sash, an enormous key that you give people that allows you to walk into anybody's house.
Because you can use it to break in the windows.
Exactly. That's why they're very heavy.
So speaking of things people might have seen you a lot, you had a bit of an explosion about a year or so back on Photoshop.
Oh
And
yeah.
you were being photoshopped onto damned near anything.
There was a photo of me after I did a show, and I looked kind of sad. I was like,
It was your sad Keanu.
yeah, that was my sad Keanu, and people took that photo on Facebook and literally plastered me on everything. Like I was on Doritos, I was riding a cat, I was in space. There was all sorts of shit. There was like for 24 hours, my phone vibrated with 1,000 notifications, and I had an otter case. The otter case snapped in half from vibration.
You get some Facebook money from that. That's
I should sue. That's at least $40 coming back.
It was a deluge, but you know, thinking back, was there anything like you guys didn't Photoshop me on this? That's a shame.
Well, the really strange part is like losing your identity for a second. It's really weird. It's like you have no control of it. So there were people that literally like I had to tell them, you gotta take that down. There were some people that had me literally sitting there and Hitler was saluting me. And I was like, I have to work in this life. I can't let you do that.
Did you get to the point where you saw people that you clearly did not know that had your face in the
Oh
page?
God, yes. And people recognized me that I didn't know in grocery stores. They were just like, "You're the Doritos guy."
Yeah, if you buy that bag, it's 10% off because I'm here.
Yeah, I could get away with a lot, but I didn't take it to my advantage. I really wish I did. And people are still photoshopping them to this day.
Good.
Yeah.
They need to keep Adobe in business.
Yeah.
So another thing people might know you for, and something I would think you do, is Mondo Baltimore.
Mondo Baltimore. Yes, the long-running Mondo Baltimore.
So I gotta ask, is there any particular love story between you and schlock film? How you got interested in it?
Oh God, I love shock film. I started off with Mystery Science Theater. I just love like when a crazy person gets a lot of money to do something and they do it and execute it and put it on film. That is usually a guilty pleasure of mine, is to watch a crazy person with money do something and then film it.
So along that point, the difference between it is so bad it's good to straight being awful, is it the earnestness in the attempt to make it?
Yes, the passion, if you will, the misguidedness of doing it's the follow through. It's the follow through. Having the convictions to be like, yes, I need to do an epic about octopuses that strip on the side, or bikini car wash. Or
You're convinced that no one that has made It's So Bad It's Good film has been convinced that they're making a bad film.
No,
they
they
think they're
absolutely
making
have
a
no
film.
idea, which is the best part about it. Like meeting these guys, like actually meeting some of these guys.
You've done that?
Yeah, and they're absolutely earnest about what they've done. Like we've contacted people, and they've literally like we've tried to get filmmakers to come down and do things, and we have people like you can basically, the best thing about Twitter is you can be like, all right, I want to talk to this person who made this complete load of crap and is doing nothing, and all he's on Twitter, and I could just be like, I'm a super fan of this, and they'll be like, I'll send you a video, that's great.
So do you find that there's any distinction between like
actors or directors or writers in terms of who is the most not bothered by their previous really schlocky work?
Actors are not bothered by it because they like to eat.
And also, it's just like, anything else we say, hey, it was the writer.
Yeah, the writers really, they don't say that they're embarrassed. They usually say, well, I did that for money. Which is fine.
It's the old Michael Caine line, I don't like the movie, but I love the boat of Bombay.
Yeah. He goes, did you like John Score? Well, it bought that house. So, yeah. But it's these guys that are just usually writer-directors and actors.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Now, do you think they are that because they thought they could do it all, or because no one signed on?
I literally think it's because they think their vision will somehow be compromised. Yeah, they just want purity of vision, man.
Well, hopefully your vision will not be compromised in any of the fantastic shit that you do.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll hang around for a little bit the rest of the show.
Okay.
Which I mean just stay in that seat as we talk optimally around you. Okay. And yeah, we're going to go to another commercial break, it looks like.
All right.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chuck Roger, and I'm here on behalf of the Donald Trump campaign to appeal to young voters and ethnic minorities. Donald Trump is not a racist against ethnic minorities. The truth is that he gets very bad diarrhea from delicious ethnic fast food. And then takes his frustrations out on the people and not the food. It's all just a big misunderstanding. Case in point, he doesn't want to build a wall to deport 11 million South Americans. He's just venting his frustrations over getting food poisoning from Chipotle earlier that day and subsequently turning his boxers into a bean burrito. Remember that time he wanted to deport Muslims? No, that's not how he really feels. He was just upset because the halal food he had from the food truck at Central Park right before his speech turned his butt crack into a lamb curry sandwich. Donald Trump loves good food and has diarrhea every day. That's the problem. You know, during the debates, he wasn't trying to make faces at the other people to bother them. He was just trying not to crap his pants. You ever seen a baby go? He's trying not to crap his pants. That's the problem. You hear him yammering on about China. You think he's upset that China unfairly pegs their currency to the US dollar, employs slave labor, and restricts imports through unfair tariffs? No! He doesn't care about China's predatory economic policies. He's just upset that every time he orders General Tso's chicken, 3 hours later, it ruins his campaign rally by filling up his pants with a hot steaming gallon of sweet and sour butt soup. That's the problem. Why do you think he's so chummy with Vladimir Putin? Because Russian food doesn't give you the shits. Russian food is made out of borscht, beets, and the lost hopes and dreams of the proletariat. Remember, Donald Trump is not a racist. Donald Trump has a racist asshole. That's what the problem is. So vote for Donald Trump, reconsider your vote, and let's make America great again. Woo! NASCAR!
Proof that we do not vet our advertisers. Chuck from the unofficial, official Donald Trump campaign, maybe.
That was a remarkably educated bigot.
We keep a copy of the Red Book in the back, and people bone up people that come out.
That's fantastic.
So, you all might remember, about 2 months ago, the Washington Post ran a awful hit piece saying that, yeah, Baltimore is cheap, but life is cheap in Baltimore. Very much just like, yeah, you got your low prices, but you're gonna immediately die. And that, my friend, was bullshit. So the folks at Strong City, Baltimore have started a campaign where you fill out a postcard and they will send it to certain people in DC
where you extol the virtues of Baltimore and try to convince them to correct their unfair opinion. Well, wouldn't you know, this campaign is kicked off. It's kicked off in a big way. And we're already getting campaign cards in here, and I just drew a few at random. I'm just going to go through them here tonight and just really talk up what makes the city great. All right? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So we got one here from a Anthony B. Or a Brown, whichever way you want to do it. First of all, Baltimore is great. We are a strong, that's the whole thing, is why are we a strong city? Baltimore is a strong city because we pitied O'Malley well before the rest of the country pitied O'Malley.
That's right.
We're trendsetters. That's right. And we're so friendly. It is the friendliest town you'll ever visit. Largely because unfriendly folks got shanked when they ran off their damn mouths. Thank you, Anthony. We got here from Susie Q. That might be a pseudonym. I don't know. Yeah, some folks might think we're scary here in Baltimore, but that fear is keeping out the developers that are charging you $2 grand for a broom closet in DuPont Circle.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, and our rail system does not break down and catch fire. You actually have to use your rail system for it to break down. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Susie. Oh, here's one that's close and dear to my heart. So Baltimore has been historically a strong city. Our Federal Hill Park was part of the defenses against the British in the War of 1812, and the city has done well to maintain the importance of Federal Hill Park in the city by being one of the premier places to get PCP. And that was signed, I want PCP.
Very appropriate.
Oh, and we've got a Kevin here. So, House of Cards was filmed here. So we have way more Kevin Spacey poop than the sewers of our so-called nation's capital. Thank you very much. Oh, and statues. Washington might think it has statues and spades, but we have statues all over the place. You cannot go more than 5 feet without hitting a statue. Like Kevin here says, I walked right outside my door and there's a wait, that's a dead guy. I'm glad he continued his thought on the postcard. And
What do you think is in Kevin Spacey?
Just raw talent. Just seriousness and really good walking impression. even in the shit.
You don't think there's a little lemon in there?
But in all seriousness, note, folks, in a really heartfelt card from the Baltimore bomber, a native of our own Dundalk, is a bunch of gibberish because he doesn't know how to write. But the passion is in this card. And if I could just enunciate the passion to you right now, it's essentially, yeah, come on here, boys from Baltimore, hun! But in all truth, I have actually written into this program, our city kicks ass. Our city has soul. Our city has shit like this that has just started above a bar on basically a whim, on a shoestring budget, less than that because shoestrings cost money. We haven't spent a single thing here. We have fantastic talent like Jean. We have fantastic educators like Norfolk. We got incredibly cheap drinks. Like, you could drink yourself under the bar for the price you get for a Miller Lite in most places in D.C. We're a fantastic fucking city, and fuck you, Washington Post!
Yeah!
All right. I got my dander up, and to calm me down, we've got our...
You're doing fine.
All right. To calm me down, we've got a serious, extremely serious academic guest for you today. it is another dear friend of mine, Mr. Sean Lothar.
Thanks for having me, Cole.
Always a pleasure for both of us to be in normal ass clothes. For those not in the know, Mr. Lothar is a fellow reenactor with me. If you cannot tell, that is partially why I'm so weird. Just ballpark it for our viewers here. What's the kind of timeline in which you operate in terms of the reenacting world?
Oh, I tried to confine myself between the years of 800 and 1800.
And is there a time period too early or too late, or is that just happenstance?
Oh, no, I draw the line at the Civil War. I refuse to reenact any war that's still being fought.
Yes. Yes, sir. So, Lothar,
Yes.
it was very recently President's Day.
Oh, yeah?
And President's Day commemorates a lot of presidents. Thomas Jefferson was a contentious man, to say the least, particularly in his treatment in one Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
However, he had a lighter side. He had an interesting side. You were just telling me some interesting things going on with old TJ.
Well, Thomas Jefferson was very, very proud of the United States, and he loved the country he lived in. So when he was sent to France to be our ambassador, he went around to all the French bragging about how great his country was. And the French wouldn't hear anything of it. They were constantly like, American wine is terrible. American people are weak and unintelligent. And even American animals are tiny and small. And Jefferson drew the line at the animals.
Hell
like,
yeah!
No way! He's like, I'll take any animal in America up against any of your sissy French animals any day of the week.
Wine drinking, cigarette smoking, Canadian fucking elk.
So he wrote back to all of his friends, Madison, Washington, Benjamin Franklin, asking for all this information about American animals. He's like, measure them, go out in the woods. Like, seriously, it has been documented that James Madison has measured the genitals of the Virginia weasel at Thomas Jefferson's prompting. Now, and I'm trying to figure out if he was like serious or Jefferson was just being a huge troll.
And I feel like the Virginian weasel is a terrible name for James Monroe. That is not a fun thing.
But it came to a point where the French were really, they just felt that their moose, it would be impossible for the Americans to top the French moose. And Jefferson, he was determined to prove them wrong. So he wrote back to America and he just said, find the biggest moose in the continent. Find it, kill it, and send it to France. I must prove that we are greater. So a year goes by, and some guy in New Hampshire is walking down the street, or riding his horse down the lane, and he sees a dead moose in the middle of the street.
Like one does.
And he goes back to town and he tells people about it. And somebody there had read one of those Jefferson letters, and he's like, we need to get that, and we need to send it to France. So a bunch of people go out into the wilderness of New Hampshire, gather up this dead moose, drag it to the nearest port, and ship it to France on a boat. By the time it gets to France, it's like a year later after this thing's dead. But Jefferson is waiting there at the port for it to show up with this French guy, and he comes, he's like, behold, the greatest moose you have ever seen. It's just this mound of rotting moose flesh. And I guess the French were impressed.
It at least sounded delicious.
But apparently the French guy he was bragging about this, died like 2 months later, probably from a disease he caught from a dead moose. So at least Jefferson proved his point. America!
and that dead moose caused the French Revolution, as far as we understand. America.
I am so glad we're not that petty.
No. We just send giant stuffed Super Bowl linebackers to France to frighten the locals that way. Gronk. We just send him Gronk every year, and he just runs across the countryside. Speaking of Gronk, Gronk is a bit of a dick. And you know something about a historical dick who was actually not that much of an asshole. He's a very interesting man.
Oh well, there's this man. He was from Kentucky. He was a member of the House of Representatives, very well respected in his community. Even when the War of 1812 broke out, he resigned his post and formed a militia, and he rode off to Michigan to fight the British and the Canadians and the Indians at the Battle of Detroit. And according to legend, he even killed Tecumseh. This man's name was Colonel Johnson, Colonel Richard Johnson. And
Dick Johnson!
Well, I wasn't going to say it.
Just getting the point home.
Okay. So, Dick he came back to Kentucky bragging about killing Tecumseh, and he ran for office again, and he kept winning elections. He had one of those election songs that were such the rage back then.
Yes.
It went like this. Rumsey Dumpsey, Rumsey Dumpsey, Colonel Johnson killed Tecumseh. And it swept him into office again and again and again.
That critical Rumsey-Dumpsey vote.
Yes,
the
yes,
crucial
yes.
in America.
By the time he made it to the Senate, he had proposed legislation to fund a expedition to the center of the Earth. Surprisingly, it got about 20 votes in favor of it.
Damn Mammoth Cave lobbyists.
But, about a decade later, wouldn't you know it? Vice President.
Vice President Dick Johnson. Well, I am so happy you've educated us on dicks, both nicknamed and actual. Before I let you go, I believe you have a certain rowing opportunity that you participate in.
Yes, if any of your viewers or guests are inclined to go out and pretend you're a Viking someday, I happen to be a part of a Viking group that actually owns a Viking ship. And if you want to come out and join us, www.longshipco.org, the Longship Company, we would love to have you row with us.
So get out there, have a flag and a mead, learn some goddamn history, and thank our guest, Mr. Sean Lothar.
Yeah!
Alright, and we're going to motor right along to our final act. She appears to be all tuned up and ready to go. So without further ado, your musical act, A Case of Sears!
So I couldn't decide tonight if I was going to do some of my progressive feminist children's music. It's not actually a joke. It's an awesome album, I swear. Anyway, I decided I could either go on that end of the spectrum or I could do this. So all of my songs are based on true stories. This one is a little bit fiction, but mostly based on a true story. This is my murder ballad.
What timing?
Amazing. If I was going to kill someone, which I wouldn't. If I was air and he was water, he breathed me in and pulled me under. First I was thirsty, then I was drowning. He wasn't looking, I took a lover, a man made of fire. I knew he would burn me, the danger was real. Didn't want love, I just wanted to feel. He threw flames at me, and I tried to run. I was convinced the damage was done. Can you kill a man for loving, for the repeated offense of insisting? Could you end a life to salvage your own? Would you murder to get him to leave you alone? ultimatum, I had to end it. Water or fire, both suffocating. I made my bed and I chose to burn it. Went back to my lover, went straight to hell. Loved him so hard, not very well. Can you kill a man for loving, for the repeated offense of insisting? Could you end a life to salvage your own? Would you murder to get him to leave you alone? Thought he could defeat me, thought he could keep me, thought he had dug himself in much too deeply for me to be free. So I let him sleep. I found his blackout emergency candles tucked in a drawer with other essentials. I lined them up one after another outside of his door and used his own lighter. At first it spread slowly, but sure as he burned me, it would reach him before he would awaken. Asphyxiation. The house would come down, but I didn't stay. I said my goodbyes and I walked away. Can you kill a man for loving, for the offensive insisting? Could you end a life to salvage your own? Would you murder to get him to leave you alone? To my place, all covered in ashes. I promised the end this time, and it lasted. I bathed myself clean of my Grinnell in his clear water. Never looked back.
Well, that has been a fantastic show. I want to direct you to, of course, look for our wonderful musical act, Casey Sears, on YouTube. I'm sure you can find her easily with that shirt, sure. ACACI Sears.
No, ACACIA.
Oh, I misspelled it. That's why I've been saying it weird. Sorry. ACACIA. Sears. Like the store.
Yes.
On YouTube.com. And while you're on YouTube, why don't you look up Hampden Tonight on YouTube, where you can find an archive of all of our shows. If you can't find them on Periscope, you'll find them there. And I want to thank our guests one more time. See us. Oh my God. Acacia Sarah. John Bennett. Sean Lathar. Your cameraman. Your sound man.